Hello everyone, welcome to lesson 6.2 for Pearson on dividing unit fractions by unit fractions. So we are going to jump right in and I'd like you to try this launch and I'd like you to try it using the technique that we learned in lesson 6.1 with the freeze, change, flip strategy. So go ahead and try this on your own, pause the video, and then come back for the answer. All right, so it says a customer orders 1/2 pound of tuna for a special treat for his cats. He asks the deli worker to divide the tuna into 1/10 pound pieces so each cat gets the same amount of tuna or the same treat. How many cats does the customer have? Let's show how we know. So my initial reaction is to do, okay, well, 1/2 divided by 1/10, and that will tell me the number of cats. And I'll draw my little kitty cat here with the whiskers. That's not the best drawing, but it's my cat, okay? And so here's my problem that I set up, 1/2 divided by 1/10. And another way that you could do this is maybe draw a number line. And if this is 1 and this is 0, this would be 1/2. And we would, in order to do this, we would need to be dividing by 1/10. So we would need to break this up into tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I just went ahead and drew 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So now I have the 10 spaces. So I need to figure out that I need to first realize that each one of these spaces represents a tenth. And I need to see, well, how many tenths are inside of 1/2? Well, this section right here is the 1/2. So how many tenth sections do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections. So my guess is that this is going to be 5, but let's use our freeze, change, flip strategy. And we'll do 1/2, and that stays frozen. We freeze. We change division to multiplication, and then we flip 1/10 to 10/1. So now we can either cross cancel or we can just multiply across, and 1 times 10 is 10 and 2 times 1 is 2. So 10 divided by 2 would give us 5. So both ways we've got 5. Hopefully you did as well. Let's go ahead and jump to part 1 to see what else we need to learn this lesson. All right, in part 1, we're going to be using a number line to divide fractions. And this isn't the process we're going to use to solve and divide fractions in general, but it is important to learn and to see visually why we get the answers that we get. So we're going to use the problem 1/2 divided by 1/4. And normally we would freeze, change, and flip this, but I do want you to see how we do it on a number line. So let's go ahead and see the different steps.
Draw or use a number line. Because you want to divide by 1/4, divide the number line into fourths.
All right, so we start by using the second number, and we mark the number line into fourth pieces. So 0 and 1, and then each one of these represents a fourth. Here's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4, which is just 1.
Label the dividend 1/2 on the number line. The number line shows fourths, and 2/4 equals 1/2.
All right, so this is something you may just need a quick refresher on. This first number is called the dividend. The second number is called the divisor. And then the answer to a division problem is called the quotient. So you'll need those, if they refer to those terms, that's what this is. This is the dividend, divisor, and then the answer is the quotient.
Use ovals to divide 1/2 into segments of length 1/4.
Okay, so each oval is going to show how many segments are within, how many 1/4 segments are within 1/2. So here's a 1/4 segment, and here's a 1/4 segment.
Count the number of equal segments to find the quotient.
Or count the number of ovals. So we drew 2 ovals. There's 2 1/4 pieces inside of 1/2. So the answer is 2. The quotient is 2. Okay, I'd like you to try
I need two 1/6 pounders per.
I'd like you to try this example here. If you divide 1/2 pound of ground beef into patties that weigh 1/6 pound each, how many patties can you make? Let's use the number line to find 1/2 divided by 1/6, and then we'll check with multiplication. Okay, so here's our number line. So we're going to divide 1/2 pound of ground beef into 1/6 pound patties. So let me take a picture of this. And we'll throw it on our notepad. Okay, so we first need to start with, do you remember this second number is called the divisor. So we need to break this into 6. Oh, and they already did. They broke it into 6. And now this dividend is 1/2. So we need to label the 1/2. And let me grab a pencil. So here's 1/2. And we need to see how many 1/6 chunks are in 1/2. So there's 1, 2, 3. There's this piece, and this piece. There's 3 patties that we can make, 3 1/6 pound patties that we can make inside of 1/2. And while we're on this, I'd also like to show you the freeze, change, flip way, 1/2 divided by 1/6. So we would do 1/2 divided by 1/6, and we would freeze 1/2, so 1/2 would stay the same, change division to multiplication, and we would flip 1/6 becomes 6/1. You do 1 times 6 is 6, and 2 times 1 is 2, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we get the same answer both ways. All right, so hopefully that's working for you. I'd like you to try the got it on here, and go ahead and do this in your student companion book and then come back for the answer. All right, let's go ahead and look at this correct answer. The answer is 6, and here's how you do it. You draw the number line with the 1/2 marked on it, and you see how many 1/12 pieces are in 1/2, and the answer you get is 6. All right. In our key concept, it's just talking about the same things that we were talking about in that last lesson. Although in this time, or in this example, instead of having a whole number here, we have two fractions. Instead of we had one whole number and one fraction before, now we have 2 fractions. But the same exact rule works. We're going to freeze this first one, change this to multiplication, and flip this second fraction. See, the red number was on the bottom, now the red number is on the top. So we're doing 1/2 times 8/1, and when we do that, we get 8/2, which can also be written as 4. Okay, so the same rule works for dividing fractions by any fraction by any fraction. This is what we're going to do, freeze, change, flip. And then the rest of these lessons, we're going to keep going with different types of fractions, but the same rule will apply. We're always going to freeze, change, flip. So let's go ahead and look at part 2. It says, you know the formula for area of a rectangle is area equals length times width. If you know the area and either the length or the width, you can divide to find the missing side. So let's think about this in whole numbers first, and then we'll jump into fractions. So if I say that I know my yard has an area, the inside of my yard, let's make this green. Hopefully my yard is green right now. So my yard has an area, and let me make sure I fill that with green. My yard has an area of, let's say, 20 square feet. So we'll say 20, oops, that's a 0, 20 square feet. And I know that this side of my yard is 4 feet. And I need to know what this side of my yard is. So what is this feet? Well, I know the area equals length times width. So I know that 20 equals 4 times something. And I'm just going to use an X, 4 times something. And so because I don't know what that something is, I'm going to need to divide by 4 to both sides. And I would get 20, so I can say 20 divided by 4 equals my unknown side? Well, 20 divided by 4 is 5. So 5 equals my unknown side. So this side must be 5 because 5 times 4 would give me 20. So that's what we're going to be doing next, but we're going to be doing it with fractions instead of just whole numbers. We're going to be using fractions. So let's use the same model, and we will do one that has a little bit of different measurements. Let's do this yard. And we'll say, okay, the area of the yard is, let's say, 12 feet, 12 square feet, which is just written like this. And this length is, let's say this is let's say this is the unknown side, and this is a half a foot. Just a really narrow yard. It's only 6 inches. Just an example for now. But how long would this side be? So we would need to do that the area equals length times width, which is 1/2 times x. X is our unknown width. And we would need to divide. We'd say 12 divided by 1/2 is going to equal my x. Is equal my x. Sorry, my computer's lagging a little bit here. 1/2. Okay, so then we're going to freeze, change, flip. We freeze the 12. We change this to multiplication. And then we flip the 1/2 to 2 over 1. Well, 2 over 1 is the same as 2. And 12 over 1 is the same as 12. So I can just do 12 times 2 is 24. So this length up here is 24 feet. Let's look back at our Pearson example here. It says a farmer wants to fence off an area of 1/32 square miles with a length of 1/4 mile for a pasture. How wide should the area be? Here's a picture that goes with this problem. So we know it's going to be a 1/4 mile long. We need to find out how wide it's going to be, knowing that it's going to be 1/32 of a square mile inside of this space. So let's go ahead and work this out and see what we get. So I'm going to use this space just up here in the top. And we're going to say, let me grab these numbers again. 1/32 is the area, divided by what we know is the width, which I think was 1/4. 1/4 is going to give me how wide it should be. How wide it should be. And that we've been using x for. You don't have to use x if you don't want to. But we're going to freeze this first fraction, 1/32, change to multiplication, and then flip this next fraction. If you'd like to simplify first, you can, which is just 1 and 8. 1 times 1 is 1, and 8 times 1 is 8. So 1/8 of a mile should be the width of that box, or that lot of land that he'd like to use. Let's see if we can check it. All right, perfect. It looks like we got that. And when they checked it here, it works. I encourage you to check your answer, but for sake of time, I usually don't on these videos, just so you don't have to always watch 2 videos. Go ahead and try this got it on your own and see how you do. Okay, so hopefully you had time to practice that. It says the area of this hayfield is 1/72 square miles. If this side is 1/12, how long is this side? Let's look at that solution. It looks like it is 1/6 of a mile. Go ahead and pause the video if you'd like to read this explanation. And our last part, part 3. In part 3, they're asking you to create a problem that would give you, that would result in this problem. And what I'd like to do is just go to the got it and see if you can think of an example, either example 1 or 2, that would result in this problem. Which one would give you that answer? Go ahead and pause the video and think about this question a little bit. All right, so answer 2 is the only one that's going to result in that problem, and here is why. So go ahead and pause the video if you'd like to read through this. Then I'd like you to do your close and check. Complete questions 1 through 6 in your close and check, then come back for the answer. Here are the answers, and thanks so much for watching, everyone.